hello, good evening, and look, everyone's in. So let's just start here. An auspicious start. I rehearsed this as well. There we go. So listen, it's Friday. It's Friday evening here in the UK, afternoon or morning, depending which part of the US you're in. And it's 17:53 in Australia. And welcome to this on Friday, the 11th of April. This wonderful day. It's been beautiful sunshine out here. I hope you're having lovely weather wherever you are. And we're live. We're talking to all of you out there, out in PSN land, and it's brilliant that you're all here. Thank you very much for joining us. You will notice that unfortunately this visage is here rather than Robbie's. Robbie, as you may recall, is busy. He's busy with Record Store Day. Tomorrow, I think it's tomorrow or tonight, is Record Store Day, and he is at a shop somewhere in Bury St Edmunds doing something because it is Record Store Day, where lots and lots of independent record stores sell lots and lots of records made exclusively for their buying community, people who like vinyl and tape and all that kind of stuff. And Rob is busy queuing somewhere. He's here somewhere, and I think he's messaged me, but I'll check that in a minute. And just so you can see where he is standing, if we do this, where are we? If we stop that screen, hello, everyone's back in again. It's almost organised. We have a shot from Robbie. There we go. Outside a record store somewhere in Bury St Edmunds. And he's going to be there queuing through until they actually open the doors or go on sale. The sale actually starts, and they'll be walking back with, no doubt, bundles and bundles of music, which is what we're all about. We're all about making music, aren't we? And synthesizers. And I imagine one or two synths might feature in some of his paraphernalia, as it were. And what else have we got? Well, I suppose rather than just waffling on, which I'm pretty good at, as you know, I will try to keep it a little more together. So please do, let's get all the housekeeping out of the way. Please do like, comment, subscribe, and share. Liking is a great thing. If you like doing the show, it really, really helps. It helps with the viewing figures, and therefore, it makes people more aware of us, makes us more attractive, which means we can get even better guests. And then we got some guests coming up. I'm not going to tell you. I'll leave Robbie to do that. But we've got some fabulous guests coming in. And, of course, then we have to pay for it all. So do subscribe. You can subscribe here. It's a couple of quid a month, or on Patreon, which is a wonderful thing. And share it wildly amongst all your friends and relatives and unsuspecting people on the street. Just go up and say, share, have this, make them share. So we've got all of that. So you can support us, as I was saying here, or you can support us on Patreon. And on Patreon, we've got some rather wonderful things going on there. So if you happen to be a fan of Patreon, if I stop sharing that and go to present, I know this should be a lot slicker, but I'm sure there is a better way of doing this. Now, somewhere here we have got all product. There we go. Let's share this. Here we go. Look at this. Look at this. So what we have on the Patreon page, you will notice that today we've had a very, very kind donation by Custom Sonics of patches for Cherry Audio Octave Cat. He's one of several sound designers that contribute, Mark Barnes and James Dyson, a whole bunch of people that contribute free sounds here if you subscribe to Patreon. And then we have all the other lovely goodies, which is the Synthspirations. We had Woody on, I think it was last week, who did a really, really good Synthspirations. And we had Jeffrey Derry and Richard Marmalade and Matt Evans I may eventually live that one down, but that was actually my favourite so far. So there's loads and loads of goodies. So do jump in and do all of that, and then also what else do we have? We have supporting us on Patreon. So yes, jump onto Patreon and support us. We have we're appearing all over the place on YouTube, Facebook, Blue Sky, Twitch, Insta, Threads, TikTok, all the good places. And yeah, you can catch us there, and we'll pick up your messages. If you want to send us a message, you can just simply pop a Q in front of your question, and one of us, we hope, will notice that, make a note of it, and we'll be asking everyone here what they think. We'll be asking your questions. If you've got any questions, you want to know about anything at all, not the weather, because it's lovely, then ask away here. The only other thing which I always forget to mention, but I'm about to shortly, once I stop that screen and do present, the other thing which we have is, of course, our rather magnificent merch. We've got merch, and I can get rid of that. And there was some. Look at that there for Kent. Can you see? That's just a lovely thing, don't you think?
That's not my colour.
Of course it is. They even do 3XL for you. Look at that.
I do lime green or nothing, mate. Sorry.
Oh. We may have gone wrong there. We may have gone a little wrong. But we have the Keith in Watford Pro Synth, Network, Pro Synth Network bandana, and a wax candle. Look at that. Mats and posters and T-shirts and the Justin Have You tank toppy thing. Listen, there's loads and loads of merch there. I've bought lots of this. I've even got some of these trues. I've bought a pair of these, and they're fantastic. They're really, really good. So yeah, please do. If you buy from there, and there's just such a lot of really good stuff there. If you buy from there, you help support this somewhat weird bunch of people here that come out, broadcast to you every Friday, and help keep the thing running. And it's not an inexpensive thing to keep this beagle running. So without further ado, I'm going to remove that, and I'm going to bring in, well, you've seen them both, but I'm going to make this a surprise. So who am I going to highlight first? Yeah, it's got to be Ken. Ken, good evening, matey. How are you?
I understand you've been frantically calling me.
Apparently.
Yeah. Well, what happened was about 2 hours ago, the doorbell went, and I went to the door. It was my next door neighbour who informed me that there was 3 synthesizers in his garden, and 2 of our dogs were on their bed and wouldn't get off. So I had some emergency garden fencing to do.
So the synthesizers fell through the fence into the neighbour's garden.
Yeah, they took the fence down by the gate, and then went in next door, running around and playing. They thought it was hilarious. The people who lived there didn't, but the dogs thought it was great fun. They're probably still looking for their cat as well. So there was, for those of you who were interested, there was an Emulator 2 and 2 Jupiter 4s in their garden.
Leaning against a garden. I don't know anyone else that would have an Emulator 2 and 2 Jupiter 4s leaning against their garden.
You've got to put them somewhere. Come on. I can't put anything in the garage anymore. It's just, it's not a TARDIS, No, it's
not, because the thing is about a TARDIS is it's bigger on the inside. Yours just seems to be fuller, not bigger.
Oh, no, it's fuller and bigger and fuller. It doesn't matter how big it is; it's still bloody fuller. So,
how's your week been apart from that?
Pretty grim all round. Not been well.
Oh, you poor thing.
Yes. So moving swiftly along.
I hope you're feeling a bit better today.
I certainly got a lot of fresh air in the last 2 hours. That's for sure. So yeah. It's something I
Okay,
could have done without this afternoon, I'll be honest with you. But yes.
good. Well, it's great to see you, Ken. As always, we
Indeed.
wouldn't. Well, this show's really all about you and young Robbie. But we've got someone else joining us this week, which no one will guess. Can you guess, Ken? Can you? Are you? Of course not.
Is it Epsom Craft so I can punch him in the face?
And here is Andrew Brooks. He said, gilding over that one. Andrew, how are you? Welcome
Good evening.
back.
Good evening. Yeah, actually feeling quite fine. I'm on holiday, you see. It's the school holidays now for me, this week and next
Nice
week.
weather there.
And nice weather for once in the school holidays. Brilliant. So it's been lovely. I've been doing a lot of faffing about in here and had a couple of practices with Grace this week. We've got some gigs coming up later in the month, so perhaps a bit later we'll do a shout out about those. But yeah, and I spent today basically rewiring my modular, as you do. So just because of a few new things going in, it's all had to be rearranged. Because trying to fit new modules in when it's all full of wires is just impossible. So everything had to come out. So it's been quite tricky. I even did a little. Yeah, this is my version of a spreadsheet. I don't know if you, there you go, with all mixer ins, the multi-core from the top case, what's going in where, and just to keep the cabling tidy and manageable. I did it before, I'm doing it again. So I've had to pick this up and point it over there. You can sort of see that there's everything sort of loomed up and nicely. So, because, when we were doing gigs last summer, that it was just ridiculous. That the cabling was just awful. So I've got it under control. So,
well, we may have a couple of things that might help today for you, which is unusual because we usually have nothing that you're interested in at all.
I didn't say that. Or did I? I might have done. Oh,
it could have happened. Shall I bring us all in?
Yeah. The Pro plugin network. No, here we go again. Right. So yeah, actually, there's a couple of interesting little boxes to cover.
Righty ho. Well, let's just bring us all in so we can see everyone and say hello, world out there. There was just one thing I wanted to announce before we went any further, and it was just, it might not seem like a natural home for this, but earlier this week, I think most of us heard about the passing of Clem Burke, who was the drummer with Blondie. And here we go. He is, or was, an extraordinary man, and he was kind of the heartbeat for the band. So I have all sorts of memories of him, and I have memories of the records. They were so different when they came out, that real indie sound, and they had the groove and the rhythm was just solid, always solid, and you never really noticed it, but you kind of did. And he's been working with a pal of mine over here in the UK, who has been working with Hartbury University and various others. On a project, the Clem Burke project, which was introducing people who, neurodiverse and people with mental health issues, people who are long-term ill, older people, all sorts of people to drumming. And the studies that they've done all sorts of CAT scans, MRI scans on the brains, and it's an extraordinary thing. It's shown people that take up drumming, anyone that takes up drumming, and particularly people who are, as I say, neurodiverse or not particularly, don't have mental health issues, or are just whatever, old and smelly like me. It really improves your mood, your health, your concentration. So he did a great thing with that, and I know my friend's been working with him, delivering to schools and things. So for Phil, this is for my mate Phil Jones. Really sorry that you've had such a terrible loss. Does anyone else have anything they want to say about Clem, who I thought was extraordinary? Anyone else want to say anything about him?
I think you pretty much covered it, to be honest. But yeah, no, I always liked Blondie. I took to it the first note I heard and just took to it, and I went, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there anybody out there who doesn't like Blondie? I've never met anybody. I think everybody just loves it because it
Yeah.
sort of fits into so many different categories. Obviously, it's very new wave, but it was also a lot more synthy than sometimes I think we like to.
Well, you know how
think
you can
about.
be quite tribal when you're younger when it comes to music. And I'm coming from, you know, dare I say this in public, James Last and stuff like that, because that's all I got to hear. Do you know what I mean? And, you know, but Vangelis and stuff like that. And then this comes along and it was immediately like, yeah, into this. And anything that had ever been anywhere near that area of music had never really bothered me too much at all. And then Blondie come along, it's like, sweet. No, and he was a brilliant drummer. I was really surprised he was he classed as, what was it, 61 in the best drummers of all time? I thought he would come higher than that, but I think it was 61.
I think he was kind of overlooked a bit, and I think I think you're right as well, Kent. The really odd, not the odd thing, the wonderful thing about Blondie, they immediately made my ears prick up when I was doing the Wakemans and the Yeses and the blah blah blah, all of that stuff. When Blondie hit the scene, it really was like a breath of fresh air, and there were synths in there. They were using pulsing synths. They did the synth thing and drums. They hit it. They hit the ground running. And it opened up a whole area for me as well.
Well, they introduced synthesizers into guitar music. It had been done before, but when they did it, it's sort of like, this works. This is a thing. It's
cool. Suddenly, you're not uncool to use a synthesizer,
exactly,
and be a a guitar band as well.
Yeah,
indie synth pop and rock. All that stuff. Andy, what about you?
Well, I was just a kid, really, when I first heard Blondie. The first Blondie record I think that I remember was Heart of Glass, which of course is very synthy. To be honest, I think that was probably 1979 or something like that. I think that was when I was first beginning to really get aware of more and a wider range of music for myself, being sort of 10 or 11 years old. And I do remember always liking Blondie, simple as that. I didn't really pay much attention to how good or how tight or how inspiring the drumming was. It was just the overall sound was great. And we were chatting earlier, weren't we, Andy, that he was one of the members of Blondie who was there virtually all the way through. I think he was just their second drummer, but he was there right the way through till his passing, I suppose. So that's
well, they've just done another album, haven't they?
Yeah. So that's another achievement. So it's always sad, but I suppose we're getting to that point where people are going to pass away. And that's always been the case. What a stupid thing to say. I'm sure you understand what I mean, though. Debbie Harry wasn't a young woman when she was actually when they became successful. She was already in her 30s. I think when Blondie were on top of the pops and things, Debbie Harry was already in her 30s. So
it's getting close to the 40s. Yeah, she'd already had a
it's like, so whether the other band members were similar, I don't know.
And I think Robbie, who's just posted up in the chat, he's got this one right. Best drummers are the ones who don't stand out too much. Ringo, definitely. Alan White, yep. Clem Burke. There are just drummers that just sit in there and get on with it. And another one's sort of Bill Bruford, who's not really, people don't really recognise just how it's ridiculous.
Too clever, far too clever. They just don't understand him. The people who can't actually count in patterns of 7 or 13, they've got no chance with Bill Bruford, have they, really?
But Ringo, Alan White, Clem Burke, those are some very good. Clem was one of those. I'd love to. I'd love to get Robbie's take on, Robbie's sort of thoughts on him as well at some point. Maybe we can do that in another show. I saw what you put there, Robbie. Yes, Debbie Harry was a very attractive person in the band. So, look, that's Clem. Our thoughts go out to everyone that knew him, his family, friends, colleagues. Like I say, my mate Phil Jones, who's been working with him for years. It's a shame. It's a shame we lost him. And now I've got to work out. There we go. Hide current comment. That one's done. Excellent stuff. So Clem's gone. And we've got through 20 minutes of the show. Thank you, Clem, for that. It was very, very good. So what else have we got? This week, we actually do have a little bit of news. I'm just trying to work out what I want to go with first. That might be an interesting thing to go with. Well, yeah. How about this? Let me just see if I can pop this up. Yes, I can. Get ready to present it. Yep, I can get ready to present that. And I believe we even, curiously, have a video. How about that? So, do we? No, we don't. So I'm just going to bring up, I'm just going to bring up instead, ta-da, the Udo Audio Super 6 ST49.
Should have waited until it was finished.
Well, there is that. Thing is, this was announced kind of last year, wasn't it, at Super Booth, where they'd launched the Super 8 and they got the Super 6 came out, and as an add-on bolt-on, they did a sort of a kit that you could buy from the factory, and you could retrofit a 49 key polyphonic aftertouch keyboard, and that's been something which they were. It's been available. It still is. You can still do exactly that now. You can just buy it and fit it yourself. And I don't think anyone would say that the Super 6 isn't just an astonishingly good synth. But the idea of buying it and then having to take out the old one, put in the new one, not everyone wants to do that. So what they've announced this week is that you can now buy a new version of this with the keyboard, poly aftertouch keyboard fitted at the factory, and it's a few quid cheaper than buying the original and then swapping it out. So it's kind of a good deal, really. Perhaps, what about Ken? What about you? Have you any sort of skin in the game with this? I know you always had a sort of fondness for the Super 8 and the Gemini and all that. Is it something which you considered getting?
I was at some point, but I don't know. Something else turned my head. But I've had at least 3 phone calls today asking me if I will be able to fit this for them.
Thing is, it's been around for so the actual keyboard has been available since last year. Perhaps this has just jogged people's memories. Is that what's going on?
Yeah, I think that's what it is. I think there were some people who just absolutely were not aware that this was available. That's all.
And I believe, is it a Fatar keyboard? I think it is.
Well, it's certainly larger than the last one.
I might be wrong about. I might be thinking about something else.
I'm trying to remember. Do Fatar have a Poly 8C keyboard in the collection?
They do. Yes, they do. Because I know we've got something else.
Yeah, they do.
They do.
Yeah. In that case, yes, and it certainly has the look of a Fatar keyboard as well. So.
And I think the pricing on it is pretty keen. So for the expansion, it's $329. I don't know. I think this is because it's Europe, and I think because there's a pause in the tariffs, you can still get this at the same cost it was apparently over in the US. So unless I'm wrong, unless they've cancelled that 90-day tariff thing, but it's not a bad price, $329.
Yeah.
And I think the price of the Super Touch 49. Sorry, I'm just scrolling through, which must be making everyone feel a little sort of vomitous. There we go. Audio 6, Super 6 Black, desktop. Oh, it doesn't really say. I'm not sure if this is it. Super 6 White. £2,229, €2,7. So it's going to be around about 2.5.
Yeah. But it's only going to be a 10-minute fit. It's not it's not a complicated thing to fit.
Yeah, and I know there's a lot of reviews out there of the 6 and the 8 and the Super Gemini as well. So it's been a very well regarded. What I mean, I'm curious because the Poly AT does seem now to bring it into, more into the sort of current vogue for Poly AT, and they're not the only ones doing a Poly AT release this week. What are your thoughts about that, Ken? Do would that, if this had Poly AT at the time, would you have bought it then?
Probably more likely, yes, because it was less available back then. So, because as everybody knows, I've been screaming for like 30 years, saying, "Is anybody going to bring back Poly AT back? Please, but properly, not T8. God damn the T8." I don't know. Anyway, but and a new keyboard would come out and go, "Does it have Poly AT?" And they look at you like you're going, "Does it have Poly what?" So it was a very good chance then if this came out with Poly AT when it was originally launched, it would have gone, "Oh, hello.
Oh, hello.
Hello."
Yes, because when all of these first came out, I think this was like, it wasn't just last year. I think they did the keyboard edition and the Super 6. So the Poly AT is a fittable keyboard launched at the same time as the Super 6.
Yeah.
But the Super 8 and the Super Gemini came out the year before, didn't they?
Something like that, wasn't it? So is there I'm trying to remember, is there a software update, or is it that it was already sitting on the EEPROMs ready for that keyboard to become available?
I don't think there's any. It's already responds to Poly Aftertouch, so the Udo's already.
So it's in there, yeah.
It's already in there, so you don't need to do anything other than swap the keyboard over, set fire to it, send it over to you, and you go, ah.
Yeah.
And Mr. Brooks,
I call them EEPROMs. Nah.
Yeah, does this have any resonance for you? I can't remember what your stance is on Poly AT.
I've hardly ever had the opportunity to use a synth which has got it, other than to stand up one and play one at one of the sort of trade show things, like the Hydra synth, and I think it's obviously something that a lot of people appreciate. I've never been all that excited by it, nor MPE as a whole thing. But I can understand why people really want it. I can, because that level of expression at your fingertips is probably very, very important to a lot of people. I just haven't ever managed it. So maybe one day I'll play on something like this with a Poly Aftertouch, or I'll play on something like an Osmos and suddenly go, "Oh yeah, this is amazing," because I've never actually played on an Osmos. All these trade shows where they have them, I've never been able to get near it. There's always been people on them. So
what I was wondering, I mean, if we have a, I'm just going to go up to the top again. So if we have a look, I mean, that is so obviously and clearly inspired by a certain company beginning with R and finishing in Oland.
Yes,
and it's a format that's familiar to so many of us. Does that sort of immediate hands-on appeal to you more than perhaps some of the more menu-driven stuff? I just wondered if it would persuade you to.
I've always loved it. I mean, I actually would love one of these, regardless of whether it has a Poly Aftertouch keyboard or not. It's just the cost of it is, just a little bit. That's the problem. If you've got the readies for it, brilliant. Unfortunately, I haven't. So, and certainly not things like the Super Gemini, which is really expensive. So, but yeah, certainly this. I know there's the module available as well, but my attention sort of goes elsewhere. I mean, I've got polysynths, and I would actually like a modern polysynth, because the only polysynth that I've got at the minute is my Supernova sitting up here, which is a nice synthesizer, but it's it's showing its age a little bit now, really. So to have something a bit more like the Super 6 or even the a Polybrute, for example, yes, I could quite fancy that.
Okay, well, let's come back out of that. I'm just going to get rid of it off the screen. Because, and the reason the funny thing is, we've talked often about different keyboards that came out. Was it last week we were talking, or maybe 3 weeks ago, we were talking about another manufacturer releasing another keyboard, for controlling other things, mother keyboard or whatever. But it didn't come with Poly AT, and it kind of made it. It was kind of, yeah, it does a lot, but why not Poly AT? And perhaps the reason is, if the Poly AT on this is 320 something for a 49 note keyboard, 329 quid, then one can imagine how much that's going to add if you do it on a 61 key or an 88 key. It starts adding up. The costs start going mad, don't they? But I think people, give them the choice.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, polyphonic aftertouch isn't for everybody.
No, I get that.
And one thing that polyphonic aftertouch does require is you can't play it quickly. Because it's a level of expression and control that. See, if you listen to people like Vangelis used to play the 80 and stuff like that, when expression, polyphonic aftertouch expression is used, it's more when you're doing chords and whole, you're not doing anything too mad at any one time when you're using it. If you're a fast player, Poly AT is next to useless to you.
I guess. Curiously, I don't find that. I find I'm playing. It's not good at trilling on one note. The hammer action isn't good at bouncing back, but it's actually quite agile for playing fast passages. I quite like it, and I quite like the Poly AT being there for that. I think it works.
But I mean,
really...
to put it in as an effect on the way up, but you can't gauge the amount that you're going to be putting on. Do you know what I mean? So, I mean, if you get to the end of a phrase and then you just want to add vibrato, yeah, fine, yeah, but it's more for playing slowly anyway, really.
Okay, well, that's the reason I've carried on with this is because guess what?
Go on.
Guess what? We've got another little doofer that has just launched this week, which features, guess what? Poly aftertouch. So, believe it or not, that wasn't an advert for Novation Peak. Because it kind of looked like it. But it is for the new Control S series, which is the new controller from Native Instruments. It looks like a bit of a beast, I've got to say. It comes as 61, 76, and 88 weighted, all Poly aftertouch. It does so much well. I like the fact that it's got this really, really big screen, and it's dialing in and talking to just about everything, and really well. This is one of those ones which you kind of think, well, do you know what? Maybe it's time to get one of these in, and I'm thinking particularly about either the 61 or the 76 because of the semi-weighted keyboard. And I believe it's not a bad price. Where are we? $549 is the cost of this 61 key version. And it's got this is the fat R one. So, it's 49 or 61. So 49, 61 or 88. There we go. It's not a bad thing, really. And if we go to the buy now, let's have a look. We have 3 of them. So, there we go. 549, 749, or 1100, almost 1200, whatever, for the 88 note. And it comes with a full package, hardware package, complete 15, contact instrument of your choice. It's and polyphonic aftertouch. Ken, you like these kinds of things. What's your take on this?
Are you sure this is new?
This is what I've just been shown with polyphonic aftertouch. Yeah, I mean, I think it's brand new.
With surely the Mark III is exactly the same, isn't it?
Well, let's just have a look again. Let me go to buy now.
Have a quick butchers.
So this is the purchase thing here. So this is the Control S61. Then there's the Control Mark III. I don't understand what the difference is, to be honest. Control S61. I don't know. I thought we reviewed something like this, but I thought it came without the poly aftertouch. Maybe I've got this wrong.
No, the Mark III's had the poly aftertouch. Maybe it's just firmware and teeing and whatever, and because sometimes you change the bundles, so they separate them as different kinds of bundles depending on what it comes.
That's what it is. So maybe it's the fact that it's coming with a comprehensive package of included software and contact instrument of your choice.
Yeah, I got 3 of these already.
Well, and we've reviewed quite a few of these kinds of keyboards, and I think for you and for me, the thing that was stymieing for a lot of them was just a tiny, tiny display, whereas this one seems a bit more generous, shall we say, and easier to see what's going on, a lot more real estate. Is this something which you'd get now, because now it's moved forward?
I have been toying with getting a Mark III. It has to be said. I've still got I think I've got 3 Mark I's at the moment. I missed the entire Mark II thing altogether. So yeah, I am thinking about getting a Mark III, I must admit. But I'll just get the cheap one because I don't need any additional instruments with it because I bought complete control anyway, and all the libraries. So yeah, quite possibly. I don't know. I'm back at this situation where I'd like to buy that and then go and where are you putting it? Kind of scenario. So
can't be talking. Must be talking about you because it says gentleman with the mic. So that's you, Kent. Can't possibly be me, not knowing what the bleeding hell I'm talking about.
Sorry.
Kosh, thank you for that. That's very kind of you to let us know. There we go.
Yes, there you go. Yeah. It's just again, but they only brought one out a few months ago. What the hell? Again?
Yeah, but it does remind. I mean, a bit like the Udo, where they had the polyphonic aftertouch thing available since Super Booth last year, but they've just said we're now putting it into the keyboard. If you want us to, you can buy it with it built in, and it's just caused clearly a flurry of sales for you. Maybe this is what this is about. It's just getting it in front of people. Andy, you've never really worried about this kind of thing because you am I right in thinking you don't really go down the plug-in route?
No, I have plugins and things. I'm not enough in the computer to be tempted for one of these huge packages like Complete Control. I understand why people do. I thoroughly understand why people do. If you've got a limited amount of space and you get an awful lot of potential for a reasonable amount of money. And if you really are in just in the computer and you need a keyboard to go with it, then it makes absolute perfect sense. It really does. So actually, Kent, I think one of your Mark I's is actually sitting here. Just saying.
Oh, there it is.
Yeah.
Oh, all right. No, I've still got another 3 here.
You got still got. All right, okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, obviously,
Oh no, I tell a lie. I do have a Mark II.
Did you
remember?
Did you have
I
them
did
with
get a Mark.
like banks of 488 note
Oh,
keyboards?
it's madness. I tell you, madness.
Jeff Downs style or something like that.
How did you end up with so many, Ken? Did people just not buy them back, take them back?
I'm a greedy bastard. I don't know. Honestly, I don't know. Sometimes, people drop off keyboards and never collect them. So I go, mine. So
Yeah.
Jupiter 4s and emulator 2s,
amongst others, yeah. Never a Jupiter 8 though.
Never a Jupiter 8. That's very true. That as in life, so in your garden.
Yeah, that's true enough.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing. I have to say I'm more tempted by something like this. I mean, I don't really have any native instruments stuff, but it's becoming adopted as quite as a sort of a format for everyone now, isn't it?
Well, it's a beautiful integration if you do have, native instruments. It's a seamless connection. It's beautiful. It's like having what is on the screen suddenly in hardware in front of you. It's brilliant.
Yeah, it's a good thing. It is a good thing. But anyway, there we go. Just looking in the chat. Is anyone particularly I can trigger all those fake AI songs and vocals using my new £1,600 controller. Well done, Nick. Get Reactor. Well, I've had Reactor in the past, but I may have to revisit that. I've got it somewhere in my software. I might reinstall, but I actually went through a whole process of getting rid of lots of the plugins.
So did Chernobyl. Look what good it did then.
Yeah. Bless them. Yeah, that was immediately just well. Ribbon Nudo Sulfur Super 6 works with it. Don't know. I'm still talking of ribbon controllers. Do you remember before Christmas, I ordered one, a ribbon controller to go on here.
Right.
I paid for a ribbon controller. It's still not turned up. Chased them up several times, still hasn't turned up. But I'll keep on that and see if I can get the buggers to deliver it. I think.
Who have you ordered it from? Is it from Yamaha?
No. Yamaha's ribbon controller is that big, which kind of defeats the point. Hello. That was very prescient. Not prescient, very weird. So yeah, that's the that is the world's best sound library, the Control S series, with new firmware, a new template for the Peak, Novation Peak, and lots of big things and poly aftertouch. Boom.
Oh, Steve Elbow says that it was from UDO.
It was, wasn't it? It was from UDO, and I need to chase them up again because that's still not turned up. So I will follow up with them and see what's going on. Okay, let's get rid of that. We're getting near to the we've got done 3/4 of an hour. This week we don't have a Synthspirations, which is I know, it's a dreadful shame. And I'm kind of a bit bereft. So, I think what we ought to do whilst we're here is perhaps press the promo. So we've seen lots and lots of them. When I showed you earlier the Patreon page, all of the Synthspirations are going in there, and it's a great resource. It's a great way of discovering new music and seeing why people got into this wonderful sort of community of synth heads and synthesis that we all have, why they did it, what it was that triggered them. And there's some great stories in there, and it's opened my eyes to a few new artists and a few new areas to wander down, and it's been very, very good. So please do send some stuff in. We really do like to hear from all of you about what your influences were. Which album, which track, which instrument did it for you that really sort of set your world on fire, made you go, do you know what? I've got to have a. So just to remind you,
We want to know what music inspired you to make music with synthesizers. Be it an album, single, or an entire artist's body of work, we want you to tell us why it inspired you, and given that we're a synth show, which instruments used on that album really made an impact. All you need to do is film yourself talking about your synthspiration for a few minutes, and we'll feature it on the show and discuss it. Send your video clips along with your name or handle to prosynthnetwork@gmail.com using a file sharing service like WeTransfer, and you could feature on a ProSynth Network live show soon.
And there we go. Go on.
I'll make you an offer. If you can give me a little bit of a break so I can run through to the other room and grab records off a shelf, I'll do it live.
Oh, now that would be a first on the show.
And
that would
unscripted.
Live unscripted.
Go on then.
Go.
Right, I'll go and get them. Right, okay, bye.
Go and get them. Go and get them. So what are we going to see here, Ken?
I have no idea. It depends whether it comes back with albums or porn mags. I have no idea.
Well, thing is, it is porn
Stay
mags.
tuned, folks.
My wife always announces to me when my new porn has come in the letterbox, and it's a Screwfix magazine. It's the Screwfix, and I'll be there looking over double twisty screw things that have double the amount of screw whatevers and going with zinc and all sorts of wonderful heads, so super smooth driving, and I'll be that's my porn. That's my porn. The Screwfix catalogue and/or the almost completely falling apart and rubbed to death so that all the inks come off System 700 fold out, 3-page fold out that I got back in the 70s from, I think it was from Denmark Street, from Rod Argent's.
Yeah,
I think I got it from there. And I just wanted that so much, so much, and
it is a lovely thing.
It was just seeing it. I didn't know what it did, but I desperately ached for it and wanted it. And whilst we're on the subject of that, I was wondering, have you seen what Tom's been doing with the TC5000 in recent weeks? He's been posting a lot of different videos up.
No, I haven't actually. I haven't seen much at all.
Have you not?
No.
Look at the Analog Solutions site. If I don't know if we have our mods today or not, but if not, I will try and find a link to some of the videos. I might try and do that in a minute. However, he's been doing demos with it, and it's, as we know, it's a lot of money. 25, 26, 28, something like that.
It's a few pence, yes.
It's a few pence.
Yeah.
But as you know, I'm doing this community-based creative hub. That's what I'm aiming to do. This is my next big project, and I'm giving a lot of my synths to it. And I'm trying to get some grants. And one of the grants I'm applying for, one big chunk of money, is to do nothing but buy the TC5000, so that something which no one, ordinary mortal such as I and most of the rest of the world, could never afford, so that I can have it there, so that people can come and try it and play with it and actually do some work on it, do some recordings with it, just make it available as an instrument for people to use, which I think would be a brilliant idea. Would that be something you would have wanted when you were younger, or even now?
No idea. I think when I was getting into synthesizers, I saw Minimogs on TV, and then I saw a CS80, and that was it, mate. I wasn't going to be happy until I had a CS80. And then we found out how much they were.
That's when I was hiring them.
Yeah, I mean, I think that on average, I think when they hit in 76, there was only maybe 2 places, I think, in London where you could go and see one at least. And they were £5,900.
Yeah, it was a lot of money. I
A
remember.
brand new Ford was 3,200. A brand new Ford car. You know, this thing was the price of 2 cars. It's like
Two Cortina E's
all day long.
executives or GXL.
You think you get Mark III gears for that, you know? But yeah, and of course I had to fall in love with this thing, which mentally it was more expensive than the house we lived in.
So he's back, and now I'm going to wonder what he's going to do. So are we going to throw the floor over
I think we are.
to Mr. Brooks? Mr. Brooks, are you doing the very first Synthspirations here on the PSN?
Live, without a safety net.
No retakes?
Yes. No retakes, no nothing, no, oh dear. I ought to try and put them down to some kind of sensible chronological order, shouldn't I?
Well, you see when you want to do it, you say.
Yeah.
And then we'll just give you the floor.
Right. There, I think we'll do them like that, and then that's there. And yeah.
And are you ready?
Right. I think I'm ready.
Oh,
here we go. So, ladies, gentlemen, and Steve, the bastard from Australia, here, please do give a sound round of applause to Andy Brooks and his live, first ever live Synthspirations.
Right. I've been meaning to do this for ages, actually, just never got round to it because I'm a lazy git. Right. I've said it in public now. My other T-shirt says "Procrastinators of the world unite tomorrow." That's me. Some of this I've actually said on streams before, so I will be repeating a little bit. In the early 80s, early to mid 80s, really, I was very, very heavily into classical music and didn't really listen to anything but classical music. And a friend of mine came around one day and said, "I'm sick of listening to classical music at your house. I brought a tape." And he put a tape on, stuck it into the National Panasonic Music Centre in our front room. And it was a cassette that he'd called 6 of the Best, which, as grammar school boys, made me chuckle. You know, I thought that was funny. And it was 6 Ultravox songs, mid-Ewer generation Ultravox. I will hasten to add nothing against John Fox, but it was the mid-Ewer. And it was basically taken from mostly the live album Monument. But I really got into it, and Dancing with Tears in My Eyes was out in the charts at the time. And I bought the album called Lament, but the album that really, really, really sealed it for me with Ultravox, and I still think is one of the greatest albums of all time, is Raging Eden. And there's not a dud track on it. It's fantastic. It's one of those albums that just doesn't get mentioned, really. The best of the 1980s. Nobody ever mentions Raging Eden. It's a masterpiece. I absolutely adore it from beginning to end. That got me interested. I was thinking, Ultravox, I can play keyboards. I'm a pianist. I can play keyboards, synthesizers. They've got keyboards. Yeah. So that was what made me. I sort of pestered my dad, and eventually he succumbed. And my first synthesizer was a Krumar Multiman S. Bloody massive, great, everything. But it made the sort of sounds that you could hear on Ultravox records. Those string sounds. They were using an Elka Rhapsody, I think, but it's similar sort of sound. So that was it, and that was me bitten by the bug then, and I've been into synthesizers ever since. The next sort of thing which happened was really, I mean, I was listening to lots of other things like Orchestral Maneuvers in the Dark and Depeche Mode, and I love Depeche Mode, but as Matt did a lot of stuff on Depeche Mode and really sort of nailed that, I'm going to go with the next one. I really got into Jean-Michel Jarre, and it was this album for me, if I've got it the right way up. Let's get the right way up. Les Concerts en Chine, Concerts in China. I just absolutely love this, and I do think it's got Jean-Michel Jarre's best piece of music. It's got Arpeggiateur on it, Arpeggiator, which I just love. I think this is a stonking record. I really do. This one's probably unlistenable these days. It's been played so much. It wasn't just, pure Jean-Michel Jarre and electronica like that. I was into like synth pop, but one record in particular which really, really just made me go, oh, these things are amazing. This is great. And an insight into production values as much as anything else, not just the sounds, but how you put things together, was perhaps one of the first remix albums ever. I just think this is an amazing. I'd rather listen to this than Dare, for example. I'd rather put this on. It's just so much more interesting. I just love it. That for me is a classic as well. At the same time, I was getting into a lifelong love, which has never ever gone away. I got really interested in reading the sort of magazines and the press and Sound on Sound and Music Technology magazine and Electronics and Music Maker, if you remember that thing. And that's what really made me aware of the band Tangerine Dream. I hadn't heard much of them before. So my first Tangerine Dream album was not on CD, it was an album, but it was this one, Rubicon. My first Tangerine Dream album, and the one which is still my favorite to this day. This is the one that I listen to more than any other. I just think it's just that essence of the 1970s Tangerine Dream sound, and it is stunning. Ambient, sequencer driven, all the great big moogs coming in and out, and I just think it's stunning. But I will give an honourable mention to Ricochet as well, because the sequence of work on this is just sublime. Right, that sort of brings us a little bit later, and reading an interview with a chap called Daniel Lanois in Sound on Sound magazine, and the work he'd done in the studio with various people. But it made me go, oh, I want to go and get that. And this became the introduction to, again, another of my real loves, and it's the soundtrack to Birdie by Peter Gabriel. This was my first Peter Gabriel album. I bought this because of the work that Daniel Lanois had done on soundscapes and the textures, and again, it's an ambient masterpiece. Keep using that word a lot, don't I? But I love this, and from there, that's when I started getting into listening to Peter Gabriel 3, Peter Gabriel 4, and other Peter Gabriel albums. I mean, by this time, So was in the charts, Sledgehammer and those things. But this, to me, is the beautiful period of Peter Gabriel, and it was this record that really got me into that, and the appreciation of effects, studio effects, as sound creation tools, not just something to make things sound nice. A skill I've never fully mastered. As somebody who works very closely with a sound engineer who's brilliant at effects processing, I realise how lacking I am, in spite of the fact that this album really was an inspiration. So then things changed, and whilst at this point I'd still got a number of synthesizers and drum machines and a 4-track tape recorder, and was making tunes. I'd even got an Atari ST and was sequencing things. It was building up. I then had to go and live in Germany, and I started enjoying some of the sort of house tunes that had been coming out, and acid house. But it was when I was in Germany, 1989, that a friend played me, again from a cassette, the album which changed it all for me. That album, 808 State 90, was like, oh my word, what? And I became a huge fan of 808 State and really got into techno as a genre and other sort of aspects. And that to me was that kicked me off in that particular track. The last oh, my voice is going now. The last album I'm going to put up, I'm not putting up anything current or modern. This again goes back 30 years really. Is a masterpiece again, if there's that word again, of the industrial EBM genre, because I just love it. It's just great, and I'm going to go and see them next week here in Sheffield. Frontline Assembly, Tactical Neural Implant. I love that. There are loads of records I could have chosen, loads of things I could have put in, but I've distilled it down to the ones that actually have had an impact on me and how I make music that's taken me down different paths and that sort of thing. Even music that's inspired, equipment choices and things. So that's really it from me. What I would say now is I don't listen to an awful lot of sort of commercial music. Nearly all of my music listening these days is done from Bandcamp, from people who I've met online, people through our own community who've put their music up there, and that's been another really wonderful thing. I mean, I'll give an example. I don't know if he's in the chat tonight. I hope he is. That's David Surchek, Asaph Stripe. I absolutely adore what he does. And of course, other people that we know, like James Glue, his albums, they're brilliant, just really, really good, well worth listening to. But that's it for me. That's my Synthspirations, and over and out.
Woo! First live Synthspirations. Andy, that was masterful. That was masterful. There's some great comments. You did a great job, Ken. Any thoughts on that? What before I go to any?
Well, seeing that list, I now know. It just confirms why I loved him in the first place.
Yeah,
because it's yes,
there we go.
Yes,
the
yes, like that.
Is a go to electronic music. One of my top 5 favourites of all time. The
Thin
Thin Wall is
fantastic.
is
absolutely great. Again, fabulous.
And then there we go.
Yeah,
Reproduction is that's another good album. This is interesting. I hadn't thought of doing it this way before, but always listen to Birdie after Kate Bush, Hounds of Love. I didn't get on with Birdie the first time round. I bought it, didn't get on with it, and it took me a few years to get back to it. And I have to say, I do love it a lot, but I've not listened back to back. So that's going to be Set High Hedron.
It's one of those. It's one of those records that you can go back to and listen to and just go, this is just gorgeous. I could have put Hounds of Love in, but I love it not as a synthy kind of album, even though it is obviously very sample driven. But anyway, so the Hounds of Love and Kate Bush could easily have gone in there. As could a ton of other records, of course.
And then Wagyu.
Finally, Schlager. Schlager. You want honestly, Wagyu Schlager. How can the country that gave us Brahms and Beethoven and Kraftwerk and Tangerine Dream give us something that is utterly dreadful? Honestly,
I was going to say, what about the Buzz Bomb?
Saturday night on German television. Oh Lord, it was just horrific. Anyway, yeah, Schlager, yes.
And then the last one for the moment is this, Gary,
yeah,
lovely, some FLA, yeah. Some great choices there. Some really, really good choices. That was a really good Synthspirations, and that's got me thinking.
I see what Goose just said, and then I said, then I moved to Germany and really got into Schlager. No, actually, thanks, Wagyu. No, I didn't.
Yeah, where are we? I've just
it was Die Krups and other bands like that actually in Dusseldorf, which I managed to get to see a couple of times.
So that was a really that's our first ever. We broke our doofer on the very first live Synthspirations. Mr. Brooks, you're an absolute star. Thank you for that.
Live and impromptu, like I like to do it.
I think we might have to do some more of those. That was so good. And because you did such a good job with that, I thought what we could do now is get into
all the ones I'm going to throw in the bin.
Well, get into some things that you might actually have some resonance with, being as you do a lot of EMOMs and God knows what else. Shall I play a little something?
Oh, yes.
Here we go.
KO2
Champions Update 2.0.
Besides mic and line in, there is now also resampling. In sample mode, press plus and minus to select the resample input source. You can choose mono or stereo resampling. Let's say we want to add a reverb to a sound. Press sample, choose the destination, and then play the sample. Press sample again to stop the recording. You now have both a dry version and a wet version. With hands-free sampling, it's possible to play back multiple samples by pressing multiple pads. Here's how to create a chord. Select the sound to sample, enable keys mode, press sample, press shift plus pad to engage hands-free sampling. Play the chord, press sample to finish recording. To resample the fixed length pattern, press sample, press shift and pad to engage hands-free sampling to that pad. Press plus and minus to select the amount of bars you want to capture. Press play to start the sequencer and resample the pattern. The recording will stop automatically. Now you can continue to process your new sample.
So there we go. I mean, there's a lot more. There's I'm sure we can bang the link for that up in the comments at some point. If I don't know, is Ben?
I haven't seen him.
Ben Museums. I haven't seen him, so I'm just going to take that and I'm going to go to comments and I'm just going to post it in here. So here you go. There's the link to that video. So you've got it. And let me just add this to the stage. So this is the new Champions OS2 drop. So remixing, which is really, really good. Remixing from on the fly from the machine itself. Resampling, that is. Side chaining, which is really, really good. That's a great addition to this. Being able to side chain one sound to another to control volume or attack, decay, and all that kind of stuff. It's a really that's going to make a big difference. More polyphony. I think it supports, yes, it does, 16 mono or 12 stereo voice polyphony, which is quite a big increase. You can song mode, so you can chain scenes and create longer, more structured track arrangements, as you can see, and pass notes between units with MIDI through. Keep your gear in sync and pair up to 16 devices simultaneously. So this is quite a big update for this. And I was just wondering, Andy, perhaps you first on this. It seems like it's the kind of thing that's made to go with, go in, be part of an EMOM. Is this something which you would use or like the look of? I know it's teenage engineering, but this isn't an expensive piece of kit. What's it, about 300 quid,
no,
299?
Can anybody work this company out where they can charge £3,000 for a four-legged table and 300 quid for something like this? I don't understand, because these are actually great boxes, and I have seen them at EMOMs already. People are using them. There are other devices out there that people like, but I think this is a great device. I liked it when they did that stupid medieval version as well. I thought that was just so daft. It was brilliant. And yeah, I mean, what's not to like, really? If you can get your head into the way the thing works, then I'm sure it'll be great for people. Again, people performing. I mean, I've seen quite a lot of people using things like SP404s and things like that. A lot of people will use an MPC. This is in the same sort of idiom, but it's definitely much more performance-minded and doing things on the fly. Yeah, I think this is good. This is going to be one of those boxes that you see a lot of.
I tend to agree. I think the pricing thing is also really interesting. That I think it's 1,500 or 1,400 quid or something for the table, isn't it? And then there's this at under 300 quid. Ken, is this? I mean, sorry, I will. Let me just do a little. Here we go. Hello, viewers. I don't know if any of you know, but I mean, this is between us, right? Hang on. Sure, no. I used to work for Emu, and there was a time when we were looking just before hardware sort of died on its arse. Hardware sampling died on its arse back in the 2000s. We were looking. I remember Dave Caulfield, who came on the show. He used to be the head of marketing for Akai Professional, and also for Emu International, and he was my boss for quite a few years. And he was desperately trying to get the company to change direction from these very large, very expensive E4 Ultra samplers and do something which was tabletop, really simple, stupidly simple sample it, play it, pads, that kind of thing. And that's what this is. And I think you've got to admire a company that's seen this kind of a gap and is putting it out. 64 megs of memory for this.
There's always been them. I mean, the Akai had a few little samplers that were like that. Yamaha's the SU10 was very much in that. So, okay, they were much more limited because of memory space and that sort of thing, and storage and how you back your samples up and stuff. These days, that's not an issue. All these can have internal SD cards and things. So, but yeah, I mean, it's Nick Howe's the SU10, SU700. That idea of a little sampler, performance sampler that you sample things as you're going along has been around a while. I think it's been refined really well by people like Roland, and this one fits the bill as well. The Teenage Engineering one.
I think the size of it as well for EMOMs or for any kind of the size thing is important. Size is everything when it comes to EMOMs. You don't want something that's too big. You actually want it to fit a footprint that sits comfortably.
Sample Trek, as I just said it. Of course.
And the S2400, which I would give my right arm for at some point. I'd rather love that. I do rather love that, and especially with the new sampling. But this is 300 quid or less than 300 quid. Kent, you're a big fan of Teenage Engineering, I know.
Ah, yes. Their wallpapering table is second to none. No, this isn't my area of expertise at all. I come from a different village. These sort of units, I stare at them. If I used that thing and tried to create a track on it, all I'd achieve is, sorting out my 2023 tax return. That'd be about it. This, push those two buttons. No, sorry, mate. No, just go away. Leave me alone. I'm not.
Shouldn't you have filed your 2023 tax return already?
Yeah, I filed it in the bin.
Oh, okay, well, as long as the taxman knows.
It's the safest place for it, trust me. Yeah, it's a great price and everything that it does and all the rest of it, but no, not for me.
It's interesting because for you it wouldn't do, because the way you write music or compose isn't really tied to primarily rhythm. Is tied to orchestration and arrangement and sound and layering. Rhythm is part of it, but that's not the sort of core of what you do, whereas this is more for people that are doing rhythmic stuff and looping and that kind of thing. So
but when I do rhythms, I play them on the keyboard anyway. I don't know, I went off sampling at some point in my life. Weirdly, I just went, whatever. I moved on. Don't know why.
Funny, because I've rediscovered it. It's a lovely thing. That's a whole other show actually, but we'll get to that at some point.
Yeah, no, certainly get that. Yeah.
So, we were talking then about space and all that kind of stuff. If I just get rid of that and stop that screen, I'm just going to go and find another screen quickly. Where are we? I know it's here somewhere. talk amongst yourselves whilst we're doing this. This is what I'm after. This is exactly what I'm after. Right, let me go to present. There we go. So we were talking, and because you did such a wonderful job doing the world's first PSN live Synthspirations, I said you'd have some more goodies to talk about. And we were just talking about the footprint for EMOMs. Having a footprint that's small enough to actually make sense is really important. One of the issues that I think a lot of people doing EMOMs face is, how the freaking hell do you mix all of this stuff? Well, have a look at this.
Introducing Create Audio Assembler, a synth-focused audio mixer meticulously engineered to deliver unmatched vintage mixing console sound and intuitive hands-on control. Assembler builds on the rich history and sonic warmth of classic analog mixers while embracing a modern workflow designed specifically for contemporary electronic artists. Assembler captures the essence of vintage consoles famed for the way they glue a mix together with warmth, character, and dynamic response through a new proprietary tonal shaping circuitry. The results are a mix with warmth, cohesion, and a vibe that other mixers can't match. Equally adept at managing both line-level instruments and Eurorack signals, Assembler purposely eliminates extraneous features, focusing solely on superior audio quality regardless of the signal source. Assembler's inputs are split into 3 types of channels. However, they all share several common functions. Each input includes a custom preamp capable of up to 25 dB of boost, ideal for boosting line-level signals, subtle clarity enhancement, or aggressive signal saturation. 3-segment LED meters, headphone cue, and channel mutes allow for precise and comprehensive monitoring. Channel 1 and 2 add extensive tonal control with vintage-inspired EQ, while all 6 mono inputs include a dedicated pan control. 2 sets of stereo inputs take advantage of the powerful preamps and assignable aux sends to work with both Eurorack and line-level signals. This allows for...
So I think we've probably seen enough of that. There are some really good videos on this thing, some really good demos, people using it. There's one particularly by our friend on this show who was on only a few weeks ago, Robin Vincent, who does a lot of modular synth, EMOMs and God knows what else demos. And he said this has changed his life because for him, the whole thing is you usually don't end up using that many inputs. He's still got 2 free, and he's got a hell of a rig, a bit like yourself, actually, Andy. And this is a co-production sort of thing between Create Audio and Pittsburgh, who are known for building some pretty, awesome synth stuff and, engineering some pretty lovely modular pieces. Great engineering. This, if I was doing more of the kind of stuff that you're doing, Andy, this would appeal to me enormously because it's a tiny footprint. It's got nothing on it that you don't need. It's got rid of everything that you don't really won't be using. And I guess it has up to 10, 12 inputs. If you were to use the auxes instead of using them for effects, it gives you about 12 inputs, some such. I'd love your thoughts on this, and I need to go and find a price whilst you're blethering.
$299. I think it's advertised at $349, but they're expecting it to be available for about $299 on the streets. It's the same format as the East Beast and the West Pest. It's the same case, same size, and you can take it out and you can actually mount it into your Eurorack. It's essentially a Eurorack module. I'm actually a little bit annoyed, if I'm honest, because I've just bought the Zoom Live Track L6, which is fantastic. Really is.
I've got
great.
one of those as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, most people will have got one of those by now. A year ago, well, actually, it was January last year. I committed to the blue box mixer in my Eurorack system. That was a hefty chunk of cash, right? I mean, that was £650 in my rack for 12 inputs, digital effects. It's brilliant. I don't regret it for 1 minute. Not at all. Not at all. The blue box mixer, absolutely brilliant and performance orientated, even though it's screen driven. It's fantastic. But if this had been around then, I might have made a different choice. And I actually can very, very easily see me getting one of these at some point, because I've got, I don't just have one case. I've got 2 cases, and I've got a load of modules in the drop. I'm going to need more. It sounds silly, but it's that ability just to take things and stick them in a mixer and then send. For me, it's the auxiliary sends. The auxiliary sends are so important. Like I said about sounds and processing, you can do it all in line with effects units. But if you've got an effects module and you're using it in line with a sound source, nothing else can use that effects module. You've used it for that one sound. Now that's fine. That might be all you need for the most part. But actually, this little mixer, they are going to shift bucket loads of them. I'm telling you, they're going to shift loads and loads and loads, because it's appealing not just to Eurorack users. It'll work with people who've got loads and loads of these little boxes, who've got, mini jack outputs like the Boutique series, or things like the bearing a TD3 and
ELZ1, the ambient, all of those.
Absolutely. There is a shed load of those machines. And there are people who have setups based around these lots of little boxes. So to have a little mixer like that, absolutely brilliant. I am absolutely convinced they're gonna fly off the shelves, these things.
Well, just to there was a post by, or someone posted. Here we go, Ian. So I've got the L8, the LiveTrack L8, and it's great if you want to put mics in as well. But actually, for all the little stuff I've got,
that's the only downside of this little mixer. Actually, I'll say
all of these kinds of things. The ELZ1 Play and the ambient and various others. I need something like this to put them all through, and doing the conversion to wiggly little, plugs and things to actually plug into a proper mixer with 1/4-inch jacks. That's a real pain in the arse, and it leads to all sorts of nonsense, as it were. So I get what Ian's saying here. This mixer is great for Eurorack, but not for other setups. Actually, for me, it's really good for the smaller bits of gear that I have. And I've got to say, I really, really love the saturation and the sound of this. It's got a real analog sound to the whole thing. And I get the blue box. You're using the blue box. You and Ken Flux Pierce is saying pretty much that. There we go.
Yeah. Oh, well, you and me both, Ken.
Yeah, and does the blue box, saturate in the same way?
No, well, the blue box is digital. You don't want to be overloading. It's actually quite hard to overload it to the point where it really just goes horrible. There are 2 versions of the blue box. There's a standalone, and there's a Eurorack module. Mine's obviously the Eurorack module, and that's in there to work with the Eurorack stuff. I'm going to pick the mic up and just go like that. So the mic, so there's the blue box. You can see that all that over there is the audio's going in and out. There are still a couple of spares there for other bits and bobs, which I thought was really important. There's my Zoom, and there's a little alto there, which is, I'm currently going through the alto, as you can see, because I've not reconfigured the mic yet. But yeah, so that it's great. But I do think that this box is going to find a home in lots of different setups. I did just say a minute ago that the only thing that I can find which you go, oh, it's a shame, is there is no XLR mic input. So
we've got other,
that isn't its purpose. There are other things for that, like the L6. Yeah,
Kent is. I mean, this is for me. This is actually a really good solution for a lot of the small boxes that I've got. I can just build a station where I put all of these through this, and then send it out through to the one of the other analog mixers on a 1/4 inch or whatever. Would this be something that would interest you, or do you not have any of these kind of small sort of 1/8 inch jacks?
Well, I've reduced the amount of small boxes that I've had. Anyway, I'm down to just what I need at any one time. So if I need anything, pull it out, plug it in. There's bags of extra channels left on the X32 anyway. So I mean, I can see how this is very useful, because a lot of modulars never had enough mixing capability of them. The amount of times that I've been screaming at a System 55 because I run out of inputs. So I mean, it's good. I mean, and with Eurorack modulars getting so big and complicated now, and having this sort of thing, ready to plop in, is brilliant. And I like the idea that they've gone, oh, hang on a minute, if we put this in a case, people can use these on their desktops for all those other boxes. So like you say, this is going to do well. Even though the L6 is already out there, this will do well. Yeah,
the L6 is okay, but I've got to say I like the sound of this. And, coming, because these things are all really clean. All of these little boxes, I mean, they're tiny, but they're really clean. And I kind of want to get some of that analog to it. And it would be good if they're all going through one device, which is mixing them all together and then throwing it out from there. That appeals to my sense of tormentedness.
I'm just laughing at Jim's comment. He just says, just get the teenage engineering one. That one that looks like a cigarette packet that you could lose down the back of the sofa.
Yeah, that one
for £1,000.
But I'd like the sound of this. Pittsburgh do they're fantastically good engineers. And I think that's got everything I want. If I was doing live work, then I've got mute buttons there that allow me to spin stuff up, and pans, and a little bit of EQ if I need it just on 2 of the channels. That's it. That's all I really need. Everything, if it's not sounding right when it's coming out or whatever I'm doing, then I've done the wrong job programming those in the first place. So don't really want to be applying tons of EQ at that point, not for live anyway. So that's a really, I think you're right. I think this is going to do really, really well one way or the other. And they're not sort of content as it happens. Let me just check and see. They're not content with just doing that, as far as I recall. I think, yes, here we go. I believe we may even have... Let's just have a look. Oh, yeah. Here we go. And here's the second thing, Rob.
Introducing Boomchick, an explosive analog drum machine built on the sounds and character of Pittsburgh Modular's newly designed analog drum circuits. These powerful and expressive percussion voices are paired with a modern, advanced sequencer designed for intuitive creativity and deep rhythmic exploration. Every voice has been meticulously engineered for maximum sonic impact, making Boomchick a true drum synthesizer. Starting with a massive bottom end, everything from clean and punchy to aggressively distorted kicks. Explosive snare hits that can mimic a physical snare drum or venture into creative new territories. Drum channels 1 and 2 offer even deeper sound design possibilities. You can generate everything from subtle nuanced percussion to wild expressive sonic textures. Toms, claps, snares, kicks, cymbals, rim shots, cowbells, congas, claves, space sounds can all be dialed in and reimagined.
And that's enough of that. So it's really interesting this has come out at the same time, because was it last week or 2-3 weeks ago, where someone got in touch with the show and said, look, I want to, he was the guy doing the neon clocks thing, which I freaking love, and he can't get hold of a supply of those. And he got in touch with the show. I hope he's watching today. He got in touch with the show and said, look, if anyone's got any sort of feedback on what I'm planning to do, which is an analog drum machine. And I think pretty much universally, most people said, well, you could do it as individual modules for a Eurorack, but if you do it as a standalone, because it sounded, we think it sounds probably quite good. You really need to put some sort of sequencer in it to make it standalone. And we were talking about the price, and I think we were sort of thinking around about 700, 800 quid. This has come out at $399 US dollars, which means it's probably going to be, 350, 300 by the time it hits stores over here. That's kind of what you're going. I don't think this has as many drums as it did, but it's not far off. And I love the snappiness of that snare. That's really kind of cool. So it's interesting. They've bought out the mixer, which I think is a really good thing. This again, $399. What else is out there that's doing this? Because I love it. And first of all, Ken, let's start with you, because we've been starting with Andy because this is all his stuff, and he gets a reward for doing his live inspirations, the first one. What's your thoughts on this? Any thoughts particularly? Does this appeal to you?
I want one. I want one of these. I'm a sucker for little baby drum machines. I'm sorry. I love this. Yeah, and I want one. And it's like $299 or whatever you're gonna, you've been talking about. Sort of like, yeah, that's comfortable. I can live with that. Yeah.
Have you still got your System 55 there?
At the moment, yes. Somewhere. Somewhere. It's around somewhere.
It's around somewhere.
Might be next door's garden now. I don't know. You can never tell.
With the mixer we just seen and this, suddenly there's quite a nice little setup, isn't there?
The thing is, when I was using the 55, I was using it in a very traditional 55 kind of way, which means it didn't really require more mixer inputs than it had, because there's nothing else there to add on anyway. But yeah, this drum machine though, it's like, hello. Like, yeah, I could sit over there. It'd be lovely. Have some of that, because it's a complementary drum machine.
Yeah,
like if you got a drum machine and you go, and it's giving it all this, and you got this as a complement for it. It's like beautiful. Have some of that.
Which is why we like the CR68, 78.
Exactly.
Those, and the Korg thing we saw the other day as well, the last week or whatever. That was another lovely drum machine. But this, I've got to say, I'm very tempted by this, Mr. Brooks. Tell us.
Damn. I've just bought a very expensive drum module.
Oh.
So basically you're saying Create are really pissing you off because they're bringing out these wonderful instruments at a fraction of the price you've been paying.
We're talking back. Actually, it wouldn't have changed my mind. It wouldn't have changed my mind. I'm not going to talk about that particular drum module yet because of reasons, right? But I just want to say, I'll hold this up. I'm sorry. This is, there you go. I'll just take out that. There's the West Pest as a module.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. In my hand like that. This is the size of those machines. There's the box it goes in. Okay. They're really compact. So, Kent's just having it sitting there. You could sit in the corner and play with it. It just sounds great, doesn't it? It sounds vintage. It sounds full. I mean, sometimes these analogy drum things, they don't sound that great. Some of the Eurorack ones I've heard, and I just thought, it just sounds. It doesn't sound like right enough.
Yeah.
But this, I think, with those, circuits in the drive circuits and things, and let's be honest, Pittsburgh know what they're doing with analog circuits, and I think this is another little machine which is going to just fly. There's going to be loads of people who love it. They just seem to have been able to boil it down. But actually, if if you get all four of them, the things now, if you get the East Beast, the West Pest, the mixer, and the drum machine, I mean, what a great little setup for not a huge amount of money. I mean, this thing actually, the West Pest, I mean, is a great little synth, but it goes dying, and that's about it. And trying to get it to do more than dying is quite hard, really, because it's only got basically a release envelope, and it's supposed to like this West Coast bucklery style wave folding and thing and dying, and it's magnetic. It's very techno when you get it going with a doing. It's fab, but it was taking up too much space in my rack for. And yes, Wagyu the Timberwolf can do that too, but nothing like as well, as you know.
So we seem to have hit a bit of a sweet spot with these Euro rack eighth inch input output things, and they are killing it. Create are killing it with this stuff. I'm with Kent. I have to say, I like the idea of this. You know, it's kind of like it reminds me very much of the CR6878, but I've got real complete control. So it's a bit like a combination of the CR7868 and maybe the Simmons SDS5, but it's got that really tight. I just love the snare sound on this. I'd buy it for that. I'd buy it for that. It's a magnificent beastie. It really is. So there we go. Was there something? There was one other thing, because we've done lots and lots of talking here. I wonder if anyone else saying anything. Sample that? Yeah, you're going to want to sample that to death, despite the fact Kent doesn't like sampling anymore. But talking of sampling particularly, let me get rid of that. And let me bring up this. And let's see, do we have... yes, we do. Here's something. And there we go. That's rather a lovely thing. We had a freebie on from Orchestral Tools a week or so ago, 3 weeks ago, can't remember, which was pretty good. This is astonishing. I have to say, when I first listened to it, let me just add this to the stage so you can all see it. So it's on. First of all, it's on special offer, so £99, which is pretty good for everything that's there. And when I first listened to it, I wasn't sure, and I thought it was a bit weedy, to be honest. And then I realised I had my headphones on a wonk, and all the bass end was gone. And I did this, and I went, "Whoa, lady!" It's not bad. It's not bad. It's not, for someone that wants an orchestra and that already has Steinberg or whatever, Cubase, etc., and or their rather brilliant sampler. This is not a bad thing. Lots and lots of articulations. You can see all the strings, all of the brass with all the articulations, woodwinds, percussion, a choir, keys, and a harp. And it's got a brilliant control panel. So each preset comes up with, let me just get to the top again, comes up on this control panel, and you can change all sorts of things about it. So note selection, if you're holding down a chord, you can have one of these 5 instruments, in this case, or 5 instruments here, you can have one of them just being triggered by the top note, or the top 2 notes, or the top 3, or the bottom 2, and that kind of stuff. So you can actually have a handful of stuff, and you're playing a very complex piece with just the right things happening in the right place. As you can tell, I'm rather a fan of this now. And I think at the price, it's stupid. And I've got to go to our resident, I spend more money on sound libraries and I don't know where I'm going to store them. Andrew, can I please have that extra storage now, please, person? Mr. Kent, I will buy anything that's a sample library. Spong!
I thought you were going to say Andrew. Hang on. Yes. Yes. Yeah, at 99 quid. No argument at all. For me, Hallion was always just slightly behind in the race for the best orchestra library. But this one, they've jumped considerably. And at that introductory price, it's excellent, absolutely excellent. And
there's a really good demo by their normal demonstrator, who for the first time in a very long time, when he's playing it, you can see he's actually really getting off on the sounds and on the way it articulates. I think what Contact always just went that bit further, as did all the other various different sample library players. But they've really worked under the hood with the latest version of Hallion, and that's beginning to show in these kinds of libraries.
Yeah.
And if you want an orchestra that will, starting out an orchestra this good, it's got to be a buy, isn't it? I'm certainly going to be buying it. That's after, by the way, this is between us, right? I won't tell anyone else. I bought the Crow Hill Murmuration strings thing because it came up as a special offer, and I thought it was going to be either free or a very, very, very cheap thing, and it wasn't. I ended up not looking because I was busy looking after someone in hospital and stuff like that. I ended up buying it for 149 quid. Yeah, well, we won't go there, but this I'm going to buy, and I'm not going to regret it. Andrew, you came from an orchestral sort of classical music background, and you've talked previously about wanting to do something with something you wrote back when you were a teen. Does this interest you at all?
I'd like to ask some questions about this first, if that's possible. Do you need to be using Cubase?
Kent, I can't remember if Hallion is available as a standalone.
It certainly used to be. Used to be, but
or if someone in the comments can let us know.
I would imagine you can use it outside Cubase, because otherwise you're restricting your market a little, aren't you?
You are Hallion, half god, half beast. Hallion, he thinks Hallion is a VST. I think so too. So I think the answer to your question is no. You don't need to use Cubase. You just need to have a VST compliant.
So you'd have to get Hallion.
You'd have to get Hallion because it plays back on Hallion, which is a sample.
So any idea how much Hallion costs?
Let's find out.
I don't know. For me, it's normally bundled.
Yeah, I mean, if you're using Cubase, I suppose it comes with Cubase, doesn't it? In fact, I seem to remember that when the last time I had Cubase, Hallion was in there. Not that I ever did anything with it.
Yeah.
Because
Hallion, bloody hell. So Hallion is £207.
Oh well, that's just killed it, hasn't it? Because this now becomes 300 quid. And if I could just have this for £99, like Kent, you were just saying, it's a no-brainer. If you've already got the stuff that will make it work, I haven't.
Actually, Halion Sonic 7, and I don't know, is the free player for all kinds of libraries and instruments created with the full version of Halion. So you could use Halion Sonic 7 for free. It's a freebie. So you could buy this and use that to play it back.
And then bung that on. Yeah,
And then
because
that would all
otherwise
feed
you're
through it.
crippling your own market then if you
Yeah.
restrict it like that, you see.
Okay.
So that makes sense. Yeah.
Do you when you're using it? This is it's so long since I've done. Well, I've never done any of this stuff. If you're using it inside your door, do you then have to run an instance of that Halion plugin on each different track? So you've got a track for violins, a track for cellos, a track for trumpets.
Yes,
So
is
you
the
have
answer. But here's the thing. Here's the thing, though. Most of the sample playback engines are usually pretty light because they're playing back samples, and that's just that's about disk speed. As long as you've got NVMe's or SSDs that you're able to play it back from, it will be a pretty light load for your system. So yes, you would have to have the thing about this, as you saw from. Let me just bring this back up again, as you can see from the control panel. Here we go. In this case, there are 5 instances. I've not had time to look at this properly, but there's 5 different instruments here which you're playing at the same time. And you can do splits and all sorts of things and or have them all at the same time. So you can have a lot of things going on in one instance of Halion. You can have more than one up. But then you can just do freeze. Most sequencers, most DAWs now have a freeze function where once you've got the thing you want, you press freeze and it essentially just renders out an audio copy of that, which if you want to change, you unfreeze it and go back in and do it. So you can keep the load, you can manage the load on your DAW.
I am so ignorant of all of this computer side of things. I'm really sorry to all those people out there who think I'm asking questions that are,
No, because everybody has their area of expertise.
Here we go. NVMe's are SSDs, solid state devices, memory devices, are not NVMe's. So NVMe's are certainly SSDs.
I was going to argue with Maku.
They certainly are. But it's a faster interface than the standard SSDs most people see. So let's just have a look. Another question. I mean, imagine dropping memory footprint by doing all of this in PM rather than samples. It's a good point. Nick, help me out here. It's essentially recreating it using bits and pieces. It's partly synthesized, partly samples. Think of the kind of thing that D50 did.
Physical modeling.
Physical modeling. Yeah.
I'm sorry, Mr. Howes.
Yeah. Physical modeling. Thank
Prime
you.
Minister.
So I almost got some of that right. But at 99 quid for an awful lot of people, this would be. I mean, for me, this will be just fucking brilliant. I'm gonna like this. I like physical modeling as well, but this is a really good library, and I like the way it's working from what I've seen. And at 99 quid, it's not a bad way to play around with it. So, Andy, back to you. Would you consider this, or would you go down the physical modeling thing? Which kind of interface would you prefer?
I can't answer that question. All I can say is that demo sounded really good. There were loads of nice shimmery stringy bits that reminded me of that shimmery string bit at the end of Anitra's Dance from Grieg. I think for £99, if I can get that for £99 and use it comfortably, it might open up something that's been nagging in the back of my head for decades. So I'm not talking about recreating a teenage piano concerto. I'm talking about getting back into doing something a bit more like you said about Ken's, a bit more composery rather than experimental noise and sound. No. Anyway, I'm blathering on an hour a little bit.
Here's the thing. I love sequencing. I love sequencing and sequencers. Like you, Rubicon is a big, big thing for me. And, I love synths and I love orchestral as well. And what I particularly love is blending the two things together and, real guitars and drums and all that, a mix of all of these things all working together, collaborating. You end up with just some amazing stuff. So this kind of library is a perfect fit for the kind of thing I'm doing. So I'm definitely I'm going to be getting it. I know that there are, Nick Howes is saying Pianotech convinced me that sample libraries are a thing of the past for acoustic emulations. I get what you're saying there, and I think it's getting really, really good. It's getting really, really good. But there's something about the articulations on I just like this at 99 quid. It's kind of I'm a dinosaur. 99 quid, it works for me. But I've not tried Pianotech, and that's rather like with Synthspirations. It's another something which I'm now going to go and have to check, have a look. And you're right, there's room for both. So here we go. I'm probably here we go. But there's no sense. I'm just following having said SSDs and NVMEs, and then we get into HDDs. I do video editing, so I'm just after the fastest thing possible. And if it just says SSD, I don't use it. If it says NVMe, then I use lots of them. But that's a whole other thing, and I'm probably going to be shot by someone. But look. I think we're getting, we're now at, we've done almost the whole show now. We've just gone past the hour. Or not past the hour, we've gone past 10 minutes to the hour, so we're about 8 minutes left of the show. Hallion, who'd have thought we'd be talking about that today?
That's my fault. Sorry.
No, it's a good thing. It's a good thing to talk about because I think one of the problems with sample libraries, and it's why physical modeling is going to be good for certain things. Is you're not reliant on having to work within a specific sample player environment. You don't have to invest in all the other stuff to make it work. You just buy the VST that is the physical modeling thing, and away you go. Unless I'm wrong. I was waiting for Nick there to come in and correct me. But there we go. So, and there is room for all of these. And now I'm going to have to go and probably buy it, aren't they? Or at least download a demo of it to find out what the bleeding hell I've been talking about here. I got involved very early in physical modeling with the what was it? The Korg or the Yamaha Z something?
Z1 from Korg.
Z1, that was it. The Z1.
It's like a polyphonic prophecy, wasn't it?
Yeah, they also had a card, didn't they? They had
James
a card.
Dyson's just mentioned. James Dyson's just had set my Z1 up this evening.
Oh, look at that. And I felt it was good, but it was a start. But I felt at the time, which was back around about 2000, 2001, that Romplers and sample libraries had it. They kind of physical modeling promised a lot, but didn't deliver that much. Now it's undoubtedly moved on a long way, but I need to go there. Apparently, Aphex Twins Yamaha GX1 is for sale, starting bid
just under 100 grand.
It's a lot of money for an organ, isn't it?
Ask the owner.
It's three manuals. The two main big manuals are a Yamaha organ. It's the top manual that's the Synth. The little one.
It's only monophonic, isn't it?
I believe so. Do you know what? I can't honestly.
Yeah,
I think it is. Yeah.
ABBA used one.
Yeah, but I mean, the Osmonds used a YC45. You don't see them going for 100,000, do you?
What's a YC45?
Also, it's the organ that did Crazy Horses. Yeah.
I thought that
the
was
ribbon, because it had the ribbon, CS80 ribbon on it.
I assumed when I saw it the first time, I assumed it was a CS80. Shows how much I know, doesn't it?
Yes, Wags, it is 32 VCOs, but they're organ ones. Is that honest to God? The first of the two big manuals are it's an
Ken's
organ.
prepared all 4 of them, so he knows.
If you think
So whilst we're talking, go on.
No.
Well, whilst we're talking about it, I was going to say, don't forget, folks, that the Vimeo auction is still on, and it sort of stops tomorrow. But then there's the Sunday where anything that hasn't sold gets put back in for the people that want it to. So there's still some bargains to be had, and there's some great gear on there. There's a lot of very good gear on there. Be interesting to see how much what's going on in the world is affecting people's desire to spend money on these things. Be really interesting. We'll have a look at that next week, no doubt. So we're getting
made their bit.
Yeah. As long as we support our local billionaire.
Right.
Yeah. I don't mind that I can't go to hospital because of it, but that's fine. So listen, talking of which, not of going to hospital, but things that are nice and not billionaires. Before we get to plans for the weekend, what's going on this weekend? Who's on? We know we've got Symptoms of Reality after this. They're probably waiting for me to stop blethering so they can start their show.
We've got Synthicon tomorrow.
What time's that? 10?
I think that starts at 10. Yeah, we've got Ramsey.
Synchrotron,
yeah.
Sorry, Andy Synchrotron.
Andy,
yeah,
at 10 for some glorious sit back, relax, close your eyes.
Ambient and go float away on it.
Yeah, and then we got Rands
in
the afternoon, and then Symptoms of Reality will be on that night as well.
And do you think you might be doing a pub tomorrow night?
I have no idea.
No idea.
It depends on what the dogs break tomorrow. They've started on the foundations of the house, apparently. So.
When you said that the synths fell through into the neighbours' thing, did the neighbours take offence?
Only part of it.
And then Sunday we've got
that hasn't been heard since the Ken Dodge show in 1961.
And on Sunday we've got jamming in Jim Jams with the lovely Jervis, Jason, lovely man. What else is?
Jamie Morden at 6 o'clock.
6 o'clock.
You've got My Ugly Mug again. Keeps happening like that. When I'm on that show, you seem to I have to jump in on this one. There we are.
You don't have to jump in on this one. It's just like having you here.
Yeah, it was cool. It was fine. So yeah.
And you did the very first PSN live synthspirations.
Does that allow me to do a plug?
Yeah, it does. I was going to ask you. Have you and Grace got anything coming up? And
yes, we do. So I've just put the link in the chat. On the 25th of April, we're doing Sheffield EMOM, a slightly extended set, and then on the 26th of April, the very next day, we're doing the Waves in the Park event, which has been organised by Adrian Mann, A Division in the chat. In Bradford, it's at Roberts Park in Saltaire in Bradford. So if you're in Bradford area at any time on that day and you want fancy listening to some great acts in the park, hopefully the weather will be nice, then head down to Roberts Park in Saltaire. And there we go.
You plugged it. So real quick, because we're pretty much on the hour, we're just coming up to it. Have you any plans for this weekend, Mr. Brooksy?
I'm going to Grace's tomorrow to do some more rehearsing and getting ready. We're trying to go in a slightly different direction. We thought we're going to try and do this, so we've just been trying. So that's one of the reasons why this needed a great big tidy up, just to get things in a sensible state. So yeah, that's us tomorrow.
Okay.
I won't be watching Ramses, unfortunately, because I'll be at Grace's making tunes.
Well, that's a good thing. We want to hear those tunes. So do get along to Bradford when this happens. It's on in Bradford, UK.co.uk events, Waves in the Park. Go and see these lovely people playing. Ken, you got any plans for the weekend apart from falling over?
Not really, not at the moment. But I know there are things required of me.
Oh.
So when they happen, then I will.
Marital?
No.
Okay.
No. No.
Good.
It'll involve power tools, probably.
Yeah, well, I've got some power tools things to do. I've got to fit a new inlet valve on the cistern for the toilet, which will be amazing. I'll just make a pig's ear of it, but I always think it's about plumbing. But that's it. And apart from that, I'm going to be doing some playing and some synthesizing and all sorts of other stuff. So I think, gents, we've just run over. So we have just done a whole show. Woohoo! Hurrah!
And nobody died.
We didn't. Yeah. We didn't skronk it up. Hey, listen, everyone in the chat, thank you so much for being guests here. Don't forget to like. Do press the like thing. In fact, I didn't press like, but I'm going to do it now. So press the like. Do share. If you're not already, do think about, consider getting onto Patreon, because there's so many great things on there. Lots of sounds, lots of synthspiration things. We might even get Andy's one out of this and onto there if we can. How about that? And or do the same with YouTube. It helps support the show and helps us keep live and doing this. To Robbie, if you're still watching, I hope you're not getting too cold. I hope you're having a lovely time. Buy lots of lovely vinyl. Let us see what you got when you come.
Have a nice time in the queue, Robbie.
Yes,
there's
indeed.
AD in the chat. Hi, AD.
And thank you, one and all. Ken Flux, we'll see you soon. Don't forget, we have over the next 3 weeks got some fantastic guests turning up. I will let Robbie do the reveals on those in his own good time. But that from us was a show. Thank you all very, very much. And we're going to be saying goodbye.
Tschüss.
Au revoir. It helps if you then stop it. It looks good then.
Yeah, it does. We'll
do
do
that
the right
again.
thing.
Just do that again.
Yeah, let's try.
I just tried to end. I just tried to end the stream rather than press the right button. Here we go. So let's try it again.
Take two.
We were almost perfect. Bye.